Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dauster and Da'Sean podcast. It is, at this very moment, Tuesday, November 24th, 6:52 in the PM, Eastern Standard Time, the only legitimate time zone. My name is Rob Dauster. I'm here with the one and only Da'Sean Butler, former West Virginia All-American, former NBA player, longtime overseas pro, and now my podcast partner, Da'Sean. How you doing, man? Are you fired up for basketball? We're just, 18 hours away from the season starting.
I'm doing well, man, and I'm very excited. I'm pretty sure, just like everybody else, I just can't wait for college basketball to get going and get started, man. I just want to see some good basketball, man.
Yeah, I just want to see basketball, period.
Exactly.
At this rate, I'm half expecting the entire season to just be canceled and just have the entire year be nothing but a string of games that are canceled by people popping up with positive coronavirus tests. So what do you do? How's Thanksgiving for you, man? I'm Thanksgiving is my legitimate favorite holiday for two reasons. One, you can just sit there and stuff your face and eat as much as you want and drink as much as you want, and nobody can say anything to you. And two, we normally have basketball on literally the entire day. There's nothing I love more than waking up and having to wait until like 11 o'clock to be able to watch hoops, man. So what do you got in the docket for Thanksgiving?
It's going to be a very quiet one due to due to everything that's going on, but it's going to be very difficult for it to be too quiet because I have three kids and they're going to be all over the place. So exactly, it's never quiet. So me, my wife, her mother, and my three children will be, held up here, watch a little football, and then I'll catch a ton of basketball. So I'm very, very excited for Thanksgiving basketball. So.
Yeah, that's the exact same thing we're doing. We're gonna have the turkey, we're gonna have the mashed potatoes, we're gonna have the stuffing, we're gonna have the yams, we're gonna have everything. The pies, can't forget the pies.
No.
But we are doing it all in the house by ourselves as a small contained family unit, which is just basically what we've been doing for the last 9 months. So
exactly, that's what it is.
It is what it is. Before we move on any farther, I got to tell you guys about a brand and apparel company that we have partnered with here. It's actually a really cool company that I do think the listeners of this podcast and the people that are a fan of this network will enjoy. It is called Home Field Apparel. They are a small apparel brand licensed from Indianapolis, and they're actually got the shirt on right here. Da'Sean, you know what I like the most about these t-shirts, man, is that
talk to me.
There's two things that you need to have a good t-shirt, right? You can't have the neck be too loose, and you got to have the arms like the perfect tightness. And these cotton tees, man, are just the absolute best when it comes to that. They fit perfectly. The coolest thing about them, though, and the reason why I'm really excited to kind of brand with them, one is that they're small, they're family owned, they're in Indianapolis, which is kind of a hotbed of college basketball. And they're just really good people that I want to associate this network and this podcast with really good people. So I do like the people that work there. The second part of it is that the way that they develop their t-shirts and their sweatshirts and all their designs is they go through and they mine all of the old logos from all of these different schools, from power conference schools all the way down to like Grand Valley State and some of these smaller D2 and D3 schools. And they find the old logos. And they take those old logos and they put them onto t-shirts, and they kind of recreate the designs and reimagine the designs and throw them onto sweatshirts. And it's just, if you're a fan of your program and you like kind of these old school brands and these old school logos, like this is the absolute perfect company for you. We have Black Friday coming up. We have Christmas coming up. So if this is the kind of thing that you would be interested in, just go to homefieldapparel.com and at checkout, use the Field of 68 to be able to get 20% off your first purchase. That's Field of 68. It's very easy to remember. Just nine clicks that you got to make. You'll be able to get 20% off. If you want, they support us. I want you guys to go and support them. They're a cool brand and a cool company and good people. And if I'm associating with them, I don't like anybody. If I'm associating with them, that means they actually got to be pretty good. So Da'Sean, now that we're getting into the meat of this thing, we talk ball on this podcast. There's a lot of news that has come out over the course of the last 48 hours or so that has to do with COVID cancellations, that has to do with positive tests, that has to do with Rick Barnes and Larry Krystkowiak and Kermit Davis and Ole Miss getting shut down and Scott Drew getting positive tests and all of these things just kind of blowing up at the start of the season. I don't want to talk about any of that. I can't deal with any more coronavirus nonsense. I can't deal with any more COVID conversation. We talk ball on this podcast. And you know what I need for my old mental sanity, Da'Sean? I need to talk to me. I need to talk ball.
Let's talk
Let's
ball.
talk ball. So what I wanted to do on this podcast for the people that are listening is kind of go through the top 25, and both of us picked out 3 teams that we're really high on comparatively and 3 teams that we're probably a little bit lower on than consensus. So Da'Sean, I'm going to open up the floor to you. Why don't we talk about the team that you are highest on, your favorite team in college basketball compared to the AP top 25? Who are people sleeping on this year?
My favorite team, besides my West Virginia Mountaineers, of course.
That you can't count them, man.
I can't use them. I promise you I would use them, but I can't. My favorite team, I actually am really big on Villanova. I'm really big on Villanova this year. I like Jay Wright's teams usually, all the time. They usually, his style of play in general, and obviously we talk about the players. We could get to the players in a second. Just Jay Wright and his style of play, where he usually plays 4 out, 1 in, and sometimes 5 out in certain points in time. He keeps big forwards, sometimes small forwards, ton of guards, ton of wings, and they play on the perimeter, and they do a really good job for most of the time. And this year he has a team that can do that. They bring back 8 out of 9 of their top scorers this year. They lose Sadiq Bey, which is, you lose a guy like him, that sucks. But at the same time, man, Colin Gillespie, amazing scorer. Who else? What's my guy's name? JRE. Mr. Robinson Earl is a workhorse, and I kind of feel like Robinson Earl being like the consistent foundation for that team is a good look. He's at 9 double-doubles this year. Last season, and 16 or what is it, 15 double-figure rebound games, 14 or 13 double-figure point games. I feel like Gillespie being able to do a ton of the scoring this year, being that Sadiq Bey is gone, is going to be good for them, being that he'll be the one of the older guys in the team, basically. But the foundation of the team, I feel, is going to rest with my guy Robinson Earl. Like, he's going to be the one to do the dirty work. He's going to be the workhorse for the team, and obviously the rest of the guys, the other 7, they'll come and step in. They had another guy that was like a all freshman honoree, Justin Moore. They had another player who, he's just another good. They just have a really good team with Jermaine Samuels. I'm just literally slipped my mind. Another good player. Just they do a really good job of doing what they could do. And Robinson Earl and Sanders do a really good job of playing well with one another as well. So I'm looking forward to watching Villanova play.
Yeah, I'm big on them too. Do you have them number 1 over Gonzaga and Baylor?
I don't know if I have them number 1 over Baylor, just for the simple fact that you can't duplicate that chemistry. As granted, they have 8 guys coming back from the same, similar scenarios with Baylor. Baylor just shows you how good they can be when they give you a taste of the 23 winning streak last year. It's obviously with the coach and the players coming back, and just what Vital brings defensively and what Butler brings offensively. And they have another player on their team. Forgive me. What is it? Not Maceo, but Davion. Davion is another defensive player. It's like Vital. So
it's a monster. Dude.
He's a monster, and
best perimeter defender in the country, man. He is a monster.
I feel like he's up there. He's not Marcus Garrett, but to me, but he's up there. True. But I feel like when you have a guy like Vital who can guard basically some 2s, I would say, but mostly 3 to 4. I feel like Vital can guard anywhere. But and then you have my guy Davion Mitchell, who can guard that perimeter very well. Defensively, you got a team that can lock up on all facets of the court, and then you still got Butler that's out there that's going to give you those points. If looking at Butler's stats from his freshman year and then seeing him shoot add basically 3 3-pointers a game to his attempts from beyond the arc and make a higher percentage of them, that team's coming back this year. So, I love Villanova. I personally think they're going to win the Big East. I personally think that once they get into the tournament with that roster that they have, they can definitely do Sweet 16, Elite 8, even a little bit further, depending on how how everything's drawn. But man, Baylor is I kind of feel like Baylor's a different animal. So.
No, I think I figured this out. I think I know why you like Baylor more. I know that you played in the Big East, but West Virginia's in the Big 12 now. And as the resident West Virginia homer on this podcast, you're obviously going with the team from the Big 12. That's what it is. I figured it out.
I don't like how you try to use this detective thing you got going on right now.
I figured it out. I'm
working.
on you. I'm on. Oh, it's either that or Jared Butler and Da'Sean Butler are actually somehow related.
I doubt we are. But once again, you have to side with two good ideas like you just presented, man. I'm telling you. I just feel like that's a good group of guys to go with. And if the Mountaineers do beat Baylor, it just strengthens what I've been telling you about the Mountaineers. So this is all backup for later on.
It's all coming for a circle, man.
It's a full circle. It's a full circle argument right
now. So yeah, I mean, I love Villanova, man. I got them number one. And the reason why is everything you just mentioned. They got an All-American point guard in Colin Gillespie. They got an All-American big man in Jeremiah Robinson Earl. And they got like 17 dudes that are somewhere between 6'4" and 6'7" that can play the wing for them in the role that you just expect Villanova teams to be able to have on the wing. Justin Moore is one of the most underrated freshmen in the country last season. He's back. They got Jermaine Samuels, who's just like he just brings everything together for him, that kind of glue guy. He's back. They got a kid named Caleb Daniels that's going to be eligible, a transfer from Tulane. And yeah, he's a monster too. When he committed to Villanova, I got a text from somebody on that Tulane staff that just said Villanova just got an NBA player. Really? So that tells you what they think of how good Caleb Daniels is going to end up being. And like, this is all, we haven't even mentioned Brian Antoine. And I know that he's injured, the former 5-star guy. Hopefully he can get back healthy. He hurt that shoulder again, man. When you got a bad shoulder, no, that's not
it's tough, man. That's shooting. That's all that movement. Not to mention the contact you're gonna get. Like you don't realize how much contact you receive when you have a shoulder injury, man. That's majority of the game is people on your side. So
yeah, it's not good. Jay Wright has already said he doesn't know. He expects him to be out for a little while. So hopefully he can get back soon, get back healthy, because I mean, you're a 5-star freshman coming in, man. It should tell you about how good of a player he ends up being. Now, Gonzaga also deserves to be right there in that conversation. And the interesting thing about Gonzaga is they just got news today that Andrew Nembhard, who was the starting point guard at Florida last season, is going to be eligible, which means that now there are situations where you could legitimately have four guards that are going to be pros in their backcourt: Jalen Suggs, Joel Ayayi, Andrew Nembhard, and Corey Kispert. Now, you put those four guys out there with Kispert at the 4, Andrew Timme at the 5, who I think is going to be like, he might even be the best player, or at least have the best stats on Gonzaga this season. Like, that team is so good. They are the hardest team for me to like poke a hole in. You know, with Baylor, you can kind of say, okay, well, look, Jared Butler's really the only guy that can get buckets. So what happens if you have someone that can kind of slow him down, you know, blah, 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 whatever. You look at Villanova, you can say, well, you know, Colin Gillespie is not really the best athlete. And, you know, they don't really have kind of the size up front outside of Jeremiah Robinson Earl. And we're kind of betting on this freshman, blah, blah, whatever. Like there's ways to kind of poke holes in Villanova a little bit. I don't think there's ways to poke holes in this Gonzaga team. Like where I don't see any flaws. I don't see what's wrong with them.
Besides Jalen Suggs, as a freshman, I feel like it's very difficult for many freshmen to just come in right away. I mean, this team is going to be interesting because did they bring 4 guys back out of their top 8? Like there was like a drop off in minutes that was crazy for the rest of their team. Like, so I think the lowest for the guys that played a ton of minutes, the lowest amount of minutes was, I think, 14. And then after that, it was like 4 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 0 minutes. So you got 4 guys that contribute a ton of minutes. I think another 4 guys that really didn't play as much. And then you add those 2 transfers, Cook, who's really good at Southern Illinois. And like you said, Nembhard, who's also a good player as well in his own right. I feel like the style that he seemed to have played last year, not the style, but more or less like the way he did his minutes and how he plays within like 7 or 8 guys regardless. And that means there's a lot of freshmen that are going to have a ton of minutes. I would say what, 2, 3? Two at least two.
Yep.
I don't even count Suggs as a stud. And I feel like Suggs is going to be really good. I got a chance to watch a lot of Suggs and I was very impressed. I kind of feel like he's put in a great position because what do you call it? No, excuse me. The shooter. Oh, you just said his name. You just slipped my mind.
Corey Kispert.
Here we go. Kispert. He's a great shooter. 43% from three. Great shooter. Great coming off a pick and roll, getting to the mid range, finding his floater. I enjoy watching him play a little bit, but I feel like Suggs brings that. You give me the ball with the shot clock coming down, I can get you a bucket. Like watching Suggs be able to put the ball on the floor and get to a bucket, watching him being able to catch and shoot, and he can fly. Like, and he's a hell of a talent, man. I'm not gonna lie, hell of a talent. So I think it's like a good match for that team for him.
Especially because he's coming in at the point, and he has two guys that are point guards basically, in Joel Ayayi and Andrew Nembhard, to kind of help him with some of the playmaking and kind of point guard duties. He can kind of focus on being the ball handler, playmaker, go out, get a bucket, so that takes some of the pressure off of him. So my number one team that I think is the most underrated team in college basketball is Tennessee. They are, to me, absolutely loaded. We got another guest here, Da'Sean.
Hey, don't worry about it. Trust me, you're pushing to the choir, brother. The kids are always.
I don't even know if I'm going to end up cutting that out of the podcast. I might just leave it in anyway.
Leave it in there. Yeah, go ahead.
So Tennessee, right? Keon Johnson, I think, has a chance to end up being a top 5 pick in this year's draft. Just an absolute stud. I feel like not enough people are talking about him. Keon and Jaden Springer are both 5-star freshmen. Big athletic wings that can go out and get you a bucket, right? So they got that covered. They got Josiah Jordan-James coming back, who's going to be a sophomore. He was a 5-star recruit last season. Some people thought he had a chance to end up being a one and done. They got Santiago Vescovi coming back after his freshman year. Now, the thing with him as a freshman, like, he turned the ball over so much when he stepped in as a starting point guard. But how about this, man? He got there in the middle of the semesters, right? He landed on like a Friday from Uruguay. Saturday, he was in the starting lineup in an SEC game because their starting point guard, Lamont Turner, hurt his shoulder and was out. So, like, you got a guy coming from another country and landing and jumping straight into the starting lineup in the SEC. Like, that ain't easy to do.
Not easy.
So
that's a hell of a way to accept the challenge.
Right. So, like, he can only get better. They got a kid named Yves Pons, who's the best defender in college basketball, in my mind. Okay. He can guard 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s. He gives Tennessee that line of versatility. And John Fulkerson was the best big in the SEC for the last month of last season. And I'm not supposed to know this. No one's supposed to know this. So, like, this is going to stay here between us. No one else knows about this, right, Da'Sean?
Yes.
Victor Bailey is averaging like 32 points in the team scrimmages that Tennessee has had.
Average
is averaging like 30 points in their scrimmages. So, all that said, Tennessee's got everything. They got a point guard. They got athletic wings. They got guys that are old. They got guys that are young. They got future NBA players. They're awesome. Like, they're going to be a top 10 team. I think they're the best team in the SEC. I'm all in on Tennessee. And I'm not going to lie, I might have them on a future at 35-1 to win a national title this year. I might. I'm just saying. I might.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. I'm all in on them, man. All in.
On a national championship.
Yeah, I think they can do it. They got everything you need. They got pros. They got point guards. They can defend.
I'm remembering that.
Yeah, remember
that.
Write that one down. I want you to remember.
I'm going to remember that.
So when they're cutting down the nets, what are you going to remember it too?
No. Probably not. Probably not. I'll leave you alone then because you were right. But I can't.
All right. Give me your second team that you think is underrated. Second team that you're all in on.
Underrated. See, that's the thing about underrated. I don't know. Like, I hate to burn your bridge here with the don't bring it up, but I can't help but think that my Mountaineers are underrated. I just can't help.
Fair.
Like, it's all right. I've sat and listened to you talk to me about us throwing the ball up against their backboard and rebounding is our best offense. And when is rebounding not a good offense? So we're just going to take that as a positive right now. But the thing about Bob Huggins' programs that a lot of people don't realize is it's very difficult for freshmen and junior college guys to come in and adapt to what we do here at West Virginia University. So when you get these guys that come in from different places and they get there, they got to get adjusted to the defensive style, the plays, everything else, and just the style of play that Coach Huggins just implements to them. after a year, usually these individuals, sometimes even halfway through the year, the individuals start to, come around. Now, toward the end of the season, last year, I felt that West Virginia was starting to come around a little bit as far as doing a better job in our half-court defense, doing a better job scoring the basketball. A couple guys started making some more shots and having some big games. And Matthews being one of the guys. Oscar was becoming a little bit more consistent toward the end of the year. Like, I'm very excited to see where West Virginia ends up this year. With our junior college transfers, Taz Sherman and Sean McNeil, who are, mind you, were like top 5 scorers in junior college, coming in to WVU a year adjusted, knowing what they can and can't do. I'm very excited for these guys to show what they can do as far as shooting, because that's where we usually lack in shooting. And obviously Isaiah Cottrell, a big with a little bit of touch, which is something we desperately missed. We got some very strong big men who are going to go out there and rebound, Oscar Sheboy, Derek Culver. But having another big that can step out, make a jump shot from time to time to help space the court out, because we need that on our team. I feel like West Virginia, ranked 15th right now, that can change soon.
Yeah, I'm with you, especially if Miles McBride like takes a step and ends up being like a more consistent. I feel like last year he would either go for like 25 or he would go like 2 for 12. And if we can get to that point where you don't have that like that big of a gap between like when he goes off and when he doesn't, then I think that's absolutely a difference maker for him, and just kind of raises the floor of what they can be as a team. And everybody, the saying is, the best thing about freshmen is they become sophomores. Exactly. And if he kind of takes that jump as a sophomore, and Big Sheeb too. By the way, like we got to make that happen as a nickname, Big Sheeb. Does he have a nickname? What's his nickname?
Not yet. He needs one, man.
Big Sheep. Can you help me make this happen? Like you are the best person situated to be able to make the nickname Big Sheep happen. All right, you got to help me with this.
I'll see what I can do. The kid, I hate to say it, the kids. I'm the old guy. I can't show up as the old guy. Start giving out nicknames. The kids, I leave. The kids are like, "You believe this dude? Like, who does he think?" It's a whole ordeal.
Da'Sean Butler. I never even heard of him, man.
I haven't heard of this guy. Who is this dude? I'm up for the Karl Malone Award. Who's this guy trying to give me a nickname?
Yeah, there you go.
But to your point about Deuce Miles, honestly, that's a great point. But I feel those games where, the inconsistencies came in, those are also games where teams, because Deuce I want to believe his last year was his first year really getting adjusted to the point guard position. He usually played a lot off ball, and he ended up having to play a lot of point guard. And those games were games where people jumped him. This past summer, him working with their new grad assistant, Jawan Staten, who was an All-American at WVU, point guard, who's been drilling him in like crazy all summer, and working him throughout the preseason and getting him ready for this season. I have nothing but high hopes for my guy Miles. I think he's going to be great. Yeah.
I mean, if he ends up, if he's awesome, if he's an all Big 12 caliber player, then I think that West Virginia, you're absolutely right, is going to be underrated. All right, second team on my list. It's going to be weird, and it's not going to sound right, and it's a team that we never, ever underrate heading into the season. But I think Duke is underrated this year. I feel like there is a definitive lack of hype for how good that team could end up being. And there's two reasons why I'm a little bit higher on them than I normally would be. One of them is that they bring back 2 5-stars, and Wendell Moore and Matthew Hurt. And
Wendell's good.
I'm a big fan of Wendell Moore. I think he's going to be like a breakout player this year. Matthew Hurt, like, it all depends. Is he going to be able to guard? Like, if he can be something better than an embarrassment defensively, then they got a chance to be really good. Because like that, the one thing you know about him is he's going to be able to get you a bucket, right? So you got those two guys coming back to kind of like anchor things, which is not something you always see with Duke, especially guys that are as talented as those two. I love the freshman class they got coming in. I think DJ Stewart is just a walking bucket. I really like the intangibles that Jeremy Roach brings at the point guard position. And Jalen Johnson, to me, has a chance to be a top 5 pick. But I think what's most important is that Jalen Johnson's ability to handle the ball at the 4 and to kind of be a playmaker, especially in transition, will take a lot of pressure off of Jeremy Roach. The same way that Andrew Nemhart and Joel Ayayi are going to take some pressure off of Jalen Suggs at the point for Gonzaga. And when you have that, like the biggest concern is always going to be like freshman point guard and how they adjust to the college ranks. Cause it's never easy to like when you're a wing and all you're being asked to do is to make open threes and get out there and guard, like you can do that when you're a freshman, right? When you're just kind of asked to go out there and do a job, it's one thing. When you're asked to go out there and run the show as a freshman, that's never easy to do. So having somebody out there that can kind of take some of that playmaking responsibility off of your plate, I think is a big thing. So look, you're giving me got 5 stars that are coming back. You're giving me a top 5 pick in that like Jason Tatum. I'm not saying that they're going to be the same kind of players because they're very different, but like in that kind of like big 4 role, like that Jason Tatum played, that Justice Winslow played, that Brandon Ingram played, which is kind of like what Jabari Parker played. Like Coach K's had a lot of success with guys that can kind of fit that mold. And I think that Jalen Johnson can fit that mold, and he can do it as a playmaker that's going to take pressure off of the point guard. It feels like this is a team that can win the ACC and that can win a national title. And like no one is talking about them at all. Like we have, I swear I haven't heard one person like ask me a question about Duke heading into the season. It's been about Baylor, Gonzaga, and Villanova, and about teams that I think are underrated. Like I haven't had someone ask me about Duke, and it's weird to be in a situation where that's the truth. So I think Duke is underrated.
I'm not a Duke fan, so I can't answer. Can't help you with that one. I would pick them to be the worst team every time. I just don't like them. So,
all right, give me your last underrated team.
Last underrated team. If I had to say, I might have to go with Arizona State. I love Bobby Hurley. I like Arizona State, Remy Martin. I'm expecting to see big things. I saw a little bit of it last year, and obviously it came out of nowhere, but I'm expecting to see big things from them this year personally. I think that I won't go as far as to say Steph Curry-esque because that's far and off. Like he's not that, but he's very talented scorer. I would like to see him involve people a little bit more, but I feel like a little bit more like
that's the thing about Remy, right? You want
3.
Remy to play for Arizona State and not Remy Martin to play just for Remy Martin. He also has the best name in all of college basketball. That's a great name.
If you can get him to involve people ×3, I feel like that team would be a nice team to follow up the, what is it, their 16th or no, actually 18th or 19th ranking.
Yep. I do like them. I think that they're definitely one of those teams that like are going to win games that you would not expect them to win. And they're also going to lose like to Washington State at home every once in a while, just because like that, I feel like that's what Bobby Hurley teams always do, right? Like they'll go out and they'll beat Kansas when Kansas is the number 1 team in the country, and they'll go and lose like 8 out of the next 10 games. Like that, I don't know. But I mean, the talent is it. Like the 5-star kid they got coming in, Josh Christopher, like he could really play. I think that he is another one of these guys, though, that is he's a bucket getter. And when you have too many guys on that roster, I mean, you know this, man. When you have too many guys on a roster where everyone is looking to score, there's going to be nights when everything is clicking and you're going to be running people out of the gym. And there's going to be nights where it just doesn't work. And so I'm curious to see how that all kind of plays out. But the talent is there. So my last underrated team is the Houston Cougars. And let me explain to you why. First and foremost, Kelvin Sampson might be the best coach in the country that nobody calls the best coach in the country, right? Like that dude just always has his teams ready to guard and ready to execute offensively. I know that they lost Nate Hinton, but without Nate Hinton there, I do think that it opens up the floor more for Caleb Mills to get on the court. And like Caleb Mills, like I don't know how much you've seen him play.
Not much. That's what I was wondering.
That dude is just like he's a walking bucket. I think he averaged 13 points a game in 20 minutes last year coming off of the bench. So like those are my kind of guys that can just come in and just do nothing but go fill it up. Yeah. So like they got a ton of guards. I guess they got Quentin Grimes is eligible there. Now he didn't have a great season last year in his first year eligible with Houston after transferring from Kansas. but I mean, he's still good. He's still a guy that was a 5-star prospect. And Marcus Sasser, another freshman that's coming, or another guy that's going to be a sophomore, is really good. The big thing with me is they lost. I'm blanking on his name, Fabian White. I think it was Fabian White that tore his ACL, so they don't have as much size inside as I would have liked, which is a bit of a concern. But when you have, if you're going to give me the 4 guards that they have, and you're going to give me Kelvin Sampson, I'm going to ride with that team every single time. And it feels like, again, to me, like they're close to that like top 10 range. And for the most part, I've seen them ranked kind of in like the late teens, early 20s type deal.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Underrated though.
I know. Here's the thing.
I don't want to jump out the window. I'm not going to jump out the window.
I know my underrated teams are good picks. I know my underrated teams are good picks. When every single one of them, you've been like, I don't know, man. I don't know about that one.
I'm not going to judge. I'm just going to sit back and wait. That's all I can do with some of these picks that you've given me. But then again, I've given you like the top 3 teams as underrated. So,
and your alma mater.
And my alma mater. So, I mean, I can't knock you. I feel like if you're not number 1, you're underrated. So.
All right. So what do you got? What do you got for overrated teams? You want me to go first?
Please.
Want to hand me the time for this one? Iowa. This is the easiest pick.
Oh my God! I was gonna get
for you.
Took the words right out of my mouth, bro.
So Iowa's really good. Let's get that out there, Iowa fans. You don't have to hop in my mentions on Twitter. You don't have to yell at me. I know how good you guys are. You're not the 4th best team in the country.
False. Yeah.
You're not that good. Like you can't guard. You can't get stops. And if you can't get stops, you can't win a national title. You can't be a number 1 seed. And if you can't win a national title and be a number 1 seed, then how can you be a top 4 team in the country? Like that math just doesn't work to me, right? So like Luka Garza, unbelievable story. Da'Sean, I don't know if I've told you this, but the first time I saw him play a game of basketball, he was a freshman at Murray in DC. I was with a buddy that was an Ivy League coach that was recruiting one of the seniors on that kid's roster, right? Right. So we go to the game and he's like, you see that kid out there? And he points this like skinny, scrawny, 6'9" dude that had like size 18 feet that looked like he was going to fall over every time he took a step. Like, you know how when little kids, like, you know how one of your kids will put on your shoes and they take a step and like shoe like whips and hits the floor like this? Like, that's what it was like when he was taking steps with shoes that fit his feet. He was like, that dude right there is going to be a high major player. He'll be a top 100 prospect before he leaves high school.
What did you say?
Stop fucking drinking. Like, what have you been drinking? you should not be recruiting when you're out here this drunk. But I mean, obviously that proved me wrong because Luka's, man, he averaged 13 as a freshman. He averaged 23 and 10 last year, co-player of the year. I'm not, that dude works his ass off, can rebound, can score the ball. Can't guard. The reason he's back in school right now is because he can't guard. If he could guard, he would be in the NBA. Like, he just doesn't have it laterally. And
lateral quickness, yeah.
As a team, they really struggled. I watched a lot of tape of Iowa during this lockdown. And there would be times, and see if you can explain this one to me, because it makes absolutely no sense to me. They would run this kind of like this 3-2 matchup zone.
Yeah.
And they would have Luka Garza go whenever the ball went in the corner. They would have Luka Garza run out to guard the 3, right? To chase a guy out the 3-point line in the corner. And this was the design of the defense. And then they would hope that one of their 6'6" guards would box out on the weak side, could try to take away offensive rebounds for like guys like Kofi Coburn and guys like Xavier Tillman. So like the reason they kept getting killed in the zone, because you had the best rebounder in the Big Ten running out to try to chase guys up the 3-point line while you had your 6'6" shooter wing boxing people out in the post trying to get a defensive rebound. Like, it was little things like that. When you don't have great individual defenders and then you have badly designed defenses that just don't make sense. Like, if you can't defend at a certain level, you can't win a national title. If you can't win a national title, you shouldn't be a top 4 team in the country. So for me, Iowa's much closer to like 15 or 16 than they are to number 4.
Yeah, I do agree with you. That was one of my picks, Iowa. Once again, Luke is really good. But to answer that question that you just asked, you're in a zone because he can't guard the ball screen. He can't help. Yeah. He can't hedge. He can't hold for a little bit. And because of that, you have to play a zone, which is strange because when the ball goes corner and he has to step out on the perimeter to guard a perimeter player, they're either going to shoot or go by him. And then you leave your team, you leave the zone to a disadvantage. It just, you're pulling your best rebounder away from the basket and you're putting one of your worst defenders on the ball at the same time. It's just, they'll be good. Sense. I feel like they'll be good within the Big Ten. Of course, they'll do well. He's been there for he understands the terrain. I feel like most players, you come back from your junior year and having a good year, it's not, or either you had a good year prior in general and you come back, your familiarity with what's going on with the game, the pace of the game, it changes to you. You kind of feel extremely comfortable. You can do what you need to do, almost do what you want to do in a sense, depending on how good you are. And he knows what he does well. He's great at sealing. He's good at shooting hooks, and he can spin and fade away towards the baseline on the left block maybe. He's good at finding his spots. He has really good touch, so he'll carry the team, but they won't finish at 4. It's
one of those teams where they're one of those teams where there are going to be nights where they win just because they score 90, 95 points. And there's also going to be nights where they lose because they score 85 and give up 90. Yeah. And that's just when you can't guard. That's just the way that it goes. All right, give me your most overrated team in the country.
Oh my gosh, I got a couple guys that I love from this university, old heads. But I just don't see Michigan State being anywhere near what they were because of how much Winston did for them last year. And now they have a new younger guard coming in to fill space. And once again, I heard he's very good, but you can't fill those shoes right away. And if for freshman point guards, if you're a scoring guard, that's going to makes it even more difficult because you're a freshman scoring guard who's come in to handle the team. And now you have these big shoes to fill from this guy that just left who did it all basically for the university. So I had to pick Michigan State. It was kind of tough because I don't like counting out Tom Izzo's teams because he's one of those guys like Jay Wright, you name it, like these coaches that once they touch the tournament, they smell tournament blood, they can get to a Final Four somehow. Mm-hmm. They find a way. But I just feel this year might not be that kind of year for them.
Yeah, I mean they lose Cassius and they lose Xavier Tillman, who were two of the smartest basketball players in the country last season. You had a guy that ran an offense better than anyone else in Cassius, and a guy that ran a defense better than anyone else in Xavier Tillman. And not having those two, it's hard, man. When you lose that much basketball IQ, you don't just replace it with Rocket Watson, Joey Hauser. And the other thing, kind of to your point, they were such good passers and so good at creating for their teammates. And now Rocket Watts is a guy who's out there to go get a bucket, right? Joey Hauser is a guy that's out there to go score. Who's facilitating? Who's creating? So I can see it a little bit. Along those same lines, my second most overrated team in the country, Wisconsin. Their two best players are centers, right? In Micah Potter and Nate Reavers. I don't know how that works. Their point guard, the guy that everybody knows on their team, is famous because he takes charges. That's why everyone knows he takes charges. So I just don't know. The biggest thing is the reason they have all this hype is because they finished tied for first in a 4-way tie for first in the Big Ten last season. Yeah. And so now everyone's like, well, if you finish first in the Big Ten, as good as the Big Ten was, you're going to be a top 10 team again this season. Well, the truth is, they won. Yes, they won their last 8 games. Yes, they turned things around, but it wasn't like they played a murderer's row down the stretch of their season. And they still started out the year 11-10 in their first 21 games. So I get it. I think that they're going to be good. I think they're going to probably be a top 25 team. I think they'll be in the mix for at least the very least in the race for the Big Ten regular season title. I just don't see them being a top 10 caliber team this year. When you start two bigs and your point guard isn't Cassius Winston, how good are you going to end up being?
don't see them doing well personally, but I'm not. Once again, Duke kind of falls. I said Duke, but they fall in. Wisconsin falls into the Duke realm with me. Like I've not really been fans of how they do basketball as much. Like this is before Bo Ryan. This is a different coach, but more or less like that. It just the Big Ten basketball isn't.
Not for you.
It's not what it was. Not what it was when Robbie Hummel and Purdue and those guys were jumping around. So, like to have two centers as your starting. Two centers as your best players with no rhyme or reason how to get it to them and no help at all. I can't see them really going too far as well either. So.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's 2020, right? They're playing basketball like it's 1995.
Yeah, and that's not going to help you.
It might
rebound.
Might work in the Big Ten because the Big Ten, like everybody plays the same way. We just talked about how Iowa can't stop anybody, right? So maybe it'll work in the Big Ten. But all right, give me your last most overrated team.
My last most overrated team, I'd have to go with. And once again, I hate picking out a couple players that aren't there anymore, and it kind of makes it seem like the team isn't going to be as good. But I don't see Florida State being as good as they were prior. I just can't. I mean, Vassell did a lot. I mean, I feel like that team is it. It was. I feel like it's more of a. It was guard. It's athletic team, very guard dominant. But I feel like with losing a player as good as he is, like it. What can you do? Like I wonder how they will play this year. I can't see them finishing. What do you see them finishing in the top 4 in the ACC?
I think there's a path to them being able to do that because Scotty Barnes, the freshman they got coming in, I think has a chance to be really, really, really good because like he can kind of fill 2 of the voids that they have because he's 6'7" and long. So I think that what you need when you're Florida State is like they just have like 19 guys that are 6'6" with long arms that are athletic and they can switch everything, right? That's kind of what they do. That's what Patrick Williams, the reason he got drafted number 4 is because he was able to switch literally everything and he made a couple threes. So teams looked at him and said, okay, you're 18 years old. You're 6'8", you're 7'2" wingspan, you're this athletic, you've proven us you can switch everything, and you've proven to us you can make a couple threes. Okay, we'll take a risk on you. Maybe you'll end up being the rich man's OG Anunoby one day kind of a thing, right? Devin Vassell made a bunch of threes, 6'11" wingspan, great team defender. Like that's what Florida State needs. Scotty Barnes is 6'7" with a big, long wingspan and a really, really good, tough physical defender. So he can fill that role that they kind of lose with those 2 guys gone. He's also on the Bob Cousy Award watch list because he's listed as a point guard. And he plays as a point guard. So the biggest thing that they lost, since they have all of these guys that are athletic, to me, the biggest thing they lost was Trent Forrest at the point. I just didn't know how they were going to replace that. But if Scotty Barnes can step in and handle those point guard duties, then all of a sudden, like we're having a very different conversation. Now, I think there's a very real chance that he can. I think there's like I would not be surprised to see him be a top 5 pick in next year's NBA draft. But there's also a chance that like this kid gets to the ACC and he's just not able to do the things at the point that he was able to do at the high school level. Maybe his handle's too high. Maybe he's just not actually cut out for being a point guard. He's just like a playmaking wing. So there's a lot of like ifs, ands, or buts there. But I like, let's just say that Scotty Barnes ends up being, a guy that can get you 15, 5 boards and 5 assists while also doing that kind of defense. Then all of a sudden we're having a very different conversation about Florida State. Now, there's no guarantee that he ends up being that guy, but I do think that there's a way to get to the point where Florida State is what we thought they were going to be. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. It's very hard. I just feel it's very hard for point guards to come in like that spot in particular, unless you have the right team around a certain point guard. It's so hard for freshmen to come in, and especially in the ACC. Yes. Like we saw Cole Anthony. Like it's like we see so many other guards in general just come in. I feel like with point guards, unless they're just like the stud of all studs, like it usually takes a point guards like a year to get situated and be able to step in and really do real damage in the league. Like it's very rare, I say, like for the ACC, like these, because usually you have these Dukes, you have the UNCs, you have these other places that, like, these guys, their guards are mature. They're usually sometimes sophomores, juniors, seniors, like that have been doing this for a long time. Also, 5-star recruit. Like these guys, it's very tough to just waltz in that league and just flat out perform right away. Hopefully he does though, because that means it's good basketball.
Yeah, it could. and we'll see like if he's actually playing out of position or whatever. But I don't really. For Florida State, like if you're going to tell me you don't think that they're a top 25 team, I see that. Like, yeah, there's a very real chance they're not. If you want to tell me that they're going to be a top 10 team and competing for the ACC title, like I can see that happening too. So I don't really have it feels weird to like not have a hot take on something, but I can't. I think everything's on the table. I just can't see it.
So hopefully they prove me wrong.
Let's talk about All-Americans. Let's get into our All-American teams. Do you have anybody other than Cade Cunningham or Luka Garza as preseason player of the year? Or is it one of those two?
Preseason player of the year. Funny, I just told you I thought then they have my guy Remy Martin as a chance to get player of the year this year. He's on the
first team All-American. He's the first team AP All-American. That's your boy.
All right. But if I had to pick a guy, I'm really big on, and I'm big on him, but at the same time, it's a gamble. I'm really big on Marcus Garrett, bro. I'm like really, really big on Marcus Garrett, mainly because you know what you're going to get from him on the defensive end. Now that you have Dotson and Azubuike are gone, they bring in a freshman, Bryce Thompson, who's going to do some scoring, but the majority of the scoring is going to, as far as the perimeter, is going to be left into Garrett's hands. Like he's going to have to add to the scoring for Kansas. And he averaged 9, 4, and 4. He's the best. Well, he had the most assists, the best assist to turnover ratio in the league. I mean, he can pass the ball. He's going to rebound. You give him more opportunity with the basketball in his hand. I feel like that 9 could be a 15 to 16 a game or more. And that 4 rebounds and 4 assists could be anywhere between 6 and 6. Like that, the opportunity will be out there more for him, being that, you know, the floor is open. Like the two main scorers, basically in a sense, are gone. He's going to have to but he's going to be given a bigger scoring role, as well as do what he does defensively. And I'm not going to hold you. If you look at everybody throughout the NCAA, there's not many really, really, really great two-way players. You know, there's some guys that can guard. There's some guys that can score. There's a handful of guys that can go out there and do it both. So I feel like if he went out there and just, you know, knock down a couple more threes, take those threes that he wouldn't have taken because Dotson was there, or take those shots that he wouldn't take normally because Azubuike's gone. Like he has an opportunity to be a player of the year candidate.
I'll tell you what, if he ends up averaging 16 a game, then I think that Kansas ends up being like a top right there with Baylor. Because to me, the biggest issue with Kansas is I don't know where their playmaking is going to come from, right? Like so much of what they did last year was, all right, let's get Dotson going downhill to his right. Okay. Yeah. Let's get Doak rolling off a ball screen and find a way to get him a lob at the rim, right? And I'm guessing David McCormick can probably do some of the same things that Doak did, especially as a roller, but not to the same level. Like he's not as long and not as like Doak had a 41-inch vertical. Did you see that?
Rare. That's a rare
41-inch vertical
for guys like that. That's
he might literally actually be Godzilla. That dude, like he's so big and so athletic. And David McCormick can do a lot of those same things, but he's not going to be able to do them at that level. So my biggest concern has always been like, how are they going to be able to create offensively if you don't have that, like if you lost the two best weapons that you had on the offensive end? And if Marcus Garrett can be that guy, then I think Kansas like can legitimately be a preseason national title contender. So I like that. I like that call. I like that pick. The guy that I would go off the radar to kind of be like a sleeper for National Player of the Year is Sam Hauser at Virginia.
All right.
Fifth year senior, one of the most efficient players in the country. And the whole issue that Virginia had last season, the reason why they kind of like struggled was because they could not score. Now, normally they score like their scoring numbers are down because they play really slow. But if you look at their efficiency numbers and the advanced metrics, like they're always among the elite, like one of the best offenses in college basketball on a per possession basis. Last year, like they were ranked between New Orleans and GW in terms of best offenses in the country. They ranked 234th. So bringing in a guy who is known as one of the elite offensive players when it comes to efficiency and Sam Hauser, to me, like he does everything that you need a forward to do in the Virginia offense. If they're going to run that the blocker mover, he can run off of screens, he can set screens, he can roll to the basket. If they're going to run their ball screen continuity stuff, like he's not only a guy that can come off of ball screens and create, but he's also a shooter that can space the floor. So I do think that there's a chance he could be like a 17 point per game guy at Virginia. And at their tempo, if he's that guy, I think it makes Virginia a top 5 team. And if Virginia is a top 5 team and competing for a national title, I think Sam Hauser's a guy that could be in contention for National Player of the Year. Now, I have him as a first-team All-American. For me, preseason Player of the Year is Luka Garza. I think
really,
I think it's either Luka or for me. So here's my theory. Tell me what you think about this. I think I think Cade Cunningham is going to be the best player in college basketball. But if you look at the last 15 years, there have only been 3 guys that won National Player of the Year that weren't on a team that was ranked as a number 1 or a number 2 seed. Do you think, can you get them? Let me see if you can get them. Let me see if you get these 3 guys in the last 15 years.
That were what exactly?
That were National Player of the Year that weren't on a number 1 seed or a number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Oh my gosh.
One of them was Kevin Durant in 2007 in Texas.
Wouldn't have got that.
One of them was Doug McDermott in 2014 with Creighton. Mm-hmm. And one of them was Jimmer Fredette in 2011 with BYU. And all 3 of those guys were on teams that were top 4 seeds. So if you're going to be National Player of the Year, you're either one of the 8 best teams in the best player on one of the 8 best teams in the country, or you're the best player on one of the 16 best teams in the country that puts up insane numbers. And I just don't think Oklahoma State is going to be good enough for Cade Cunningham to be in that conversation. So I think he's the best player in college basketball. I would give Luka Garza the National Player of the Year award because just for me, like winning, like you got to be on a win. The most important stat in college basketball is winning. So if you're not on a team that can win, then I can't put you as Player of the Year.
Cade, I'm looking forward to watching him play though.
Oh, he's so good.
Like I got a chance to watch him. You know, my first time actually seeing him play was watching him play against Jalen Suggs actually, and Chet Holmgren.
Right.
Those guys played at I think it was the AU tournament in Vegas. It's like interesting. Like you read about him and you check, like you get a chance to see him play, and the biggest thing that jumps out of me about his game is his maturity, bro. Like his like he's so poised. He doesn't do anything he can't do, like regardless of what everybody's doing around him. Like, you know, you've played AAU before. If guys are like, you know, when guys are getting up jump shots, getting up all kinds of wild shots, it can be contagious from time to time. Not him. Like Suggs and these guys are getting up deep threes. They're playing to the crowd. They're having a good time, which is fun. And Caden's staying in his lane, man. He's coming off ball screens, getting to the mid-range, my guy, and knocking down mid-range shots, getting to the cup, pull up, catch and shoot threes. He plays his game. He doesn't try to do anything crazy. He's not the most athletic guy, but he still can get over there and punch in on you as well. Like strong. He's a big boy, 220. Like he's not like he's not a light guy. So I'm excited. I think putting him, Isaac Likely, granted they lost a lot. The team has lost a lot. They have a lot of issues going on. But the bright spot is that he's going to probably be in one of the best backcourts in the country, and having somebody like him, and I think they have another like a 4-star forward on their team as well. Just having somebody to get the ball to.
Matthew Alexander Moncrief. I think he's
Moncrief. Moncrief. Having somebody to get the ball.
Isn't he related to like Nikhil Alexander Walker and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander? I think all 3 of those guys that have like Alexander and a hyphen are all related.
You lost me after the third hyphen. I was gone. Like, I had nothing for you. No, but yeah, serious. I think putting him in that scenario where he's going to have an opportunity to, one, play his game, just go out there and hoop. Two, he'll have somebody next to him that is just as good, if, well, not just as good, but he's a good basketball player in his own right, and is an option as well. So you can help, facilitate and so on and so forth. That's going to be great for him. Not to mention, they're not going to be playing in the tournament. So unlike the pressures that all these other guys will have in the future, Cade will go out there, hoop. He has however long the season is going to be, he has a season to play, and he doesn't have to worry about the pressures of the NCAA tournament. So that would help him out further.
Which is bullshit, by the way. That they're not playing. it's
almost like, bullshit. He's the number one player that possibly to get picked in the draft next year. If he comes out, has good numbers, and friggin', shows that he can pass the ball and has a high level IQ on the court in college games, he has nothing to worry about. He's just going to stroll after his last regular season game or the conference tournament. My man is going to prepare for the draft.
He's going straight to the number one pick. First guy to meet out.
This might be one of the, if he gets the number one pick, this might be like one of those, the walk through, like the easiest number one pick, like you can walk through him.
Oh yeah,
not to take anything away from him because he's great, but that's interesting to think about.
Yeah, I'm not. We're talking ball on this podcast, so I'm not going to get into my rant about why Oklahoma State got absolutely screwed. But it is
very much so
total bullshit that they're not playing in this year's NCAA tournament. That's a different podcast for a different time. All right, real quick.
That's for a different time, bro.
So real quick before we get out of here, we got like 2 minutes left. So I'm just gonna roll my first team All-Americans. Your guy Jared Butler down at Baylor, Ayo Dosunmu at Illinois. I got Cade Cunningham, Oklahoma State, obviously Sam Hauser with Virginia, and Luka Garza at Iowa. Who do you have for first team All-Americans?
Cade, Marcus Garrett. I have where's my guy? Jeremiah Robinson Earl. I have him there. I love him. I feel like he's going to do something extremely great this year. He was Big East freshman of the year last year. I expect him to rise above that even more. And Luka, he's there at the 5 spot.
So Jeremiah Robinson Earl was just a guest on the Blue Blood on the Mainline podcast on Villanova with our guy Jason Frazier. My second team All-Americans: Marcus Zagorowski at Creighton, Colin Gillespie, the point guard at Villanova, your boy, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Corey Kispert at Gonzaga, and BJ Boston, the freshman at Kentucky. Who do you got second team?
All right, I have my man from Creighton, Marcus Zagorowski. I got him up there. I have, where's my guy? Remy Martin. I got to keep him up there. 2 guard. I have Ron Harper Jr. I think Ron Harper is going to be good for Rutgers this year. And Colin Gillespie. I think Colin Gillespie's gonna be good, bro. I have a feeling Colin Gillespie's gonna be good. It's not really many bigs that impress me though, so I gotta go with guards. So the guards are good this year.
So trivia time for you. Marcus Zagorowski has an older brother that plays in the NBA right now. Do you know what his name is? You know who it is?
No.
Michael Carter Williams. Another hyphen for you. Anybody that's got a hyphen in their last name is related to Dude, that would throw you off.
Explain the lineage and explain how that how did they?
I don't know. That's like yeah. I don't know how that one works. So third team All-Americans for me: Marcus Garrett, Kansas. I got Chris Smith, UCLA.
Yeah,
and then I got the bigs. I think there's a lot of good bigs in that kind of third team All-American range. Garrison Brooks at North Carolina, Trace Jackson Davis at Indiana, who by the way was just on AJ Guyton's House of Hoosier podcast. Also a part of the Field of 68 Media Network. And then Evan Mobley, the freshman at USC. What do you got for third team, Da'Sean?
Let me see. Let me look at my Oscar Sheboy, my guy.
Up
for the Karl Malone Award. Double alert every game.
Wait. What was his name? Big Sheep?
Big Sheep.
Big Sheep.
David Duke from Providence. I'm looking forward to seeing them. UCLA. Mick Cronin's guy from UCLA, Chris Smith. I'm looking forward to seeing him. Your guys from Houston, Caleb Mills and Quentin Grimes. I'm looking forward to seeing them.
There you go. There you have it, guys. That's what we do on this podcast. We talk ball. We will see you again next week. Da'Shaun, happy Thanksgiving, my man.
You as well, my guy, Rob. You as well. Enjoy the family time.